Should we get straight into this?
I think we should. What's the question?
Mindset. Clearing the mechanism for performance, whether that's in practice. Some people just ski practice only, or in tournaments, or both. What's kind of like a non-negotiable for you as far as how to get ready in the lead up to a ski set?
Enjoy it.
So like just like overall approach? Enjoy it.
So one thing I feel like I've learned, and I keep shouting at you lately in anger at myself, is...
It's going to get juicy.
We've gone completely off topic in the first 10 seconds of it.
It's always you. It's always
me. It's always a story.
Stories are great.
But these last 2 years in November, I've skied the best I've ever skied.
Yep.
In November. I'm like, what is going on?
What's happening?
It's not tournament time. And I was like, oh, it's just a coincidence. Obviously, there's cold, all that kind of stuff. But I've kind of thought about it this time because it's the second year in a row that it's happened. And I think it's just... I just start enjoying it. I start trying to look for feelings. It's not feelings to run boys. It's not feelings to do this. It's just, I just go down the line. I'm having fun. I'm just trying to find some feelings, messing with some... Even when I mess with fins in the season, it always seems to make me go downhill. Now it's like better. And I think...
So the messing with fins isn't the thing.
No.
In that instance, it's a mental approach, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of why... I've gone off on a slight tangent straight off the bat. Is I think that's shown me a lot. Is obviously I always enjoy skiing, but I'm doing it purely to enjoy it. There's no reason for me to ski now. Realistically, I'm maybe gonna learn something next year, but I'm about to go take a 2-month break off. It's freezing cold, and I'm just doing it just because I want to do it. I'm enjoying it. We're hanging out. We're testing some stuff. It's great, but I'm just enjoying it. And my skiing just gets better every single year that I do that. And the tournaments are done. I just relax. I'm relieved. I'm doing it as like a holiday, essentially.
Yeah.
And every single time, my mindset just goes into the state of, all right, let's find out. Let's test skis. Let's test binds. Let's do everything we can. And it becomes the scores just always go through the roof for me, consistency-wise.
So question, could we kind of simplify what you just said into expectations in a way? Like this time of the year, for the past 2 years, you kind of didn't really have like a expectations in the form of outcomes, or otherwise it was more just like opening up to being curious and enjoying the process.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of putting it.
Without like focusing on, all right, I got a tournament in 2 weeks. I need to be here before I go to that tournament to feel good.
Yeah, and I think that's literally it. Just enjoying it and enjoying the process of it, and I think that comes back a lot to so many people that I know in the sport are so focused on a boy count. I mean, so many people are focused on and it's often worse for the people that don't do tournaments consistently. Yeah. Because all they're looking at is a boy count. Their practice boy count matters so much, which it does for us all, right? It makes us feel good. It's what we do it for. But people get so focused on boy count in their head, and then their mindset's like, I'm going to go in here today, I'm going to fly to my hardest pass, I'm not going to stop, I'm maybe not going to do back-to-backs when I maybe need to, I'm just going to, that felt horrendous, you know what, I want to set my best score today. And every time, shorten, they get to the pass, it's a mess, it's all sorts of problems, falling apart, and their still sole goal for that whole set. They've paid $70 for a coaching set, say, and their goal is to, yes, they obviously want the coaching set and they want the coaching, but realistically most of the time it's boy. But a lot of the time it's worth it for especially people that don't do tournaments just to sit back, enjoy the feeling of the sport. You know, the feeling isn't the bit that we love, isn't the boys. For a lot of people it is, but realistically the bit that we love is that rhythmic pass, and finding that whether it's your easiest pass or your hardest pass, finding the rhythm, being able to work on things and enjoying that feeling, whether you get 3 at 32 or 4 at 32 or 4 at 35, whatever it is, it's just a number. Whereas if we do it well, if we do it properly, that can kind of, and that will help your boy count if you're enjoying the process and enjoying looking for that feeling. But don't. So many people stress on that boy count in practice, and it's not where it's at. Sometimes, but not all the time.
So back to mindset, because I think you brought up a good point. You highlighted that it's more about you're at your best potentially when you can let go of all those extraneous things and kind of clear the mechanism and really be able to focus on the moment, focus on the set, focus on why you're doing it. Maybe not even why you're doing it, but it's in finding the right path towards, each set that you actually find those outcomes you want. And instead of like, usually most people have more than one eye on the outcomes without even knowing it. It just becomes like second nature that they're focused on goals. We're all type A oriented, probably goal oriented. And so we're really focused on the goals and the outcomes and not slipping. Nobody wants to slip. And that totally hijacks mindset, in my opinion. Hijacks the things we know. It hijacks the idea of enjoying the process and having a couple of non-negotiables. Back to my original question to you. Besides having fun, what's another non-negotiable for you that helps you kind of do more what you just said, that you're finding success this off-season with, this post-season with?
You mean like what's my kind of non-negotiable for my mindset, like what I set up in? I think it's...
Or is there? Or am I beating a dead horse?
I don't know. I feel like, I feel like the first thing is look for the feeling. Look for the feeling of what we're going for. But it's kind of just having your keys, I guess, is a big one. And dialing in on kind of one or two keys. I've gone away from that a bit this year, and I think you could tell. You could tell that in my skiing sort of things got lost because I was trying to think of thoughts and feelings and all this kind of thing. Yeah. But I just kind of stuck to, you should be pretty disciplined with your thoughts, And if, yes, we're trying to go for that feeling, but whether it's someone in the boat telling you something, be disciplined with what they're going to say. Think about the process of that. Put it into your mind. Okay, this is what they've said. This is the key that I'm going to put into this pass, and then I'm going to do this on this pass.
Yeah.
And that's...
I like that.
Yeah.
I like kind of what you said is what I tell a lot of skiers. You have your understanding. You kind of have your current best guess at how skiing works for you, and then you can take what somebody says, maybe it's somebody new in the boat, a new ski partner that you never heard input from, and you take what they say, and ideally you can turn that into something that makes sense to you in your own way and go execute. But you're kind of talking about the on water. Yeah. I'm also interested, and I think a lot of people would be interested in, before each ski ride, is there anything you do ritualistically, habitually, that allows you to start approaching the right kind of mindset to perform? Because that's a different mindset. Like when you're Rob Hazelwood hanging out here for the last couple weeks, just likable beyond belief. Everybody loves Rob Hazelwood.
You hear that, guys?
Just super happy-go-lucky, outgoing. You don't really let things get you down.
No.
When you're skiing, sometimes there's Rob Hazelwood, the competitor, and different mindset, different facial expressions. You're a whole different person when you're trying to compete. And I think that's how it should be. Yeah. So my question is, what do you do? Are there any things that you do before you ski to get to that point where you are the competitor, Rob Hazelwood, the competitor, not Rob Hazelwood, the lovable bear that everybody knows you as? I
don't know if I'm the best person to ask this to, in honesty. I don't know if this is my best 2021 first kind of pro year, all as to a junior, it just kind of naturally happened. Yeah. And then you all of a sudden set these standards for yourself, and you start being kind of last off the dock, and now I'm in a spot that I'm not very comfortable with, And it's like, who are you in your head? Where are you in your head? What are you thinking? Your whole childhood, your whole life, all you've done is just had a great time on the dock with your friends, and then all of a sudden you're stood there on the dock putting your binding on, and you have 2 minutes of peace. Yeah. And even then, on a kid at the dock at Hazelwood's, I'd have everyone abusing you. You'd be flying around, pushing around, playing games, playing ting. Oh God, we've got to ski.
Horsing around, yeah.
And then kind of this year I've had that thought, and I find it interesting kind of what you think to it is, I try stay quite casual. I try, because I know that as soon as I get in that water, the world kind of shuts off. It's like that, this is it, Yeah. And I have 32, 35, 38 to deal with that. You have Tony blaring in the background. You have kind of like worlds. There's crazy. There's people walking up and down the banks. There's so many distractions that we have. But there I kind of don't have a hard time getting into my head. So what I try not to do, and whether this is right or not, is I wash my hands is a huge one. And I think that's obviously,
we know.
Hate having slippy hands.
Everybody knows.
But I kind of now take that as, because it's probably the only thing in my life I would say that I'm disciplined with. That
ever across all genres of life.
Pretty much everything. Like I'm more disciplined with washing my hands than I am with my diabetes, and that keeps me alive.
Yeah, diabetes.
Sometimes I'm like, oh God, it just like there's just that moment where you don't want to inject, you don't want to do this, and it's like, I'll do it 10 minutes later. Yeah. Never since Paris World when I nearly slipped the handle and that run off, and that was like. Never since that day, what was it, 2015, have I gone a set without washing my hands. That's a lie. One other time I did it,
Yeah.
and what a surprise! Slippy.
And
that's the.
Oh man.
But sorry, we've gone off a tangent.
No, but this is not a tangent.
But in
because
a tournament, that's my place.
Yeah.
Right. I'm on that dock. I don't want to just sit there and stand with my hands on my hips on the dock, because if someone falls, you have to be ready by your ski anyway. So you have to be on the dock often by yourself, and everyone and all the people around me now are pros who are trying to keep in their zone and focused.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I just keep myself busy.
Yeah.
I wash those hands. I try not to think about it too much. When my keys through my head, usually it's hit gates.
Yeah.
Let's do gates. Come on, tournament.
Pretty
gates.
simple. Make the gates.
Make the gates.
Yeah.
But just kind of visualizing those processes, and that's, you'll notice on the back of the boat, I'll kind of sometimes go a little bit quiet, and I'll just kind of not close my eyes, but just, okay, grab the handle. Let's think, okay, handle to me. And just those keys that I'm working on often around that inter-edge change second side, just going over those feelings. I don't think it needs to be done crazy long. I don't think you need this 2-hour-long warm-up. I think you need literally a minute beforehand to calm your mind. You have those passes for warm-up most of the time.
Yeah.
You should have that. If you don't, look
You
at
should
one
not
of
be
our
starting
podcasts about that we did last year.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of how I set my mindset. I figure it out. 32 is usually a bit of a wake-up call, but that kind of wakes me up for the 35, 38, and then I'm ready to go for 39, and I'm working on my movements all the way through. My thought process is on my movements and my keys, not my boy count or 41. Yeah, that's when it matters.
Yeah.
But until then, it's keys, movement, and just trying to dial in that way on my mindset. So I'm not the kind of guy that tries to put my head somewhere. I don't want to try fake that. I want it to be, and I think this is important for a lot of people, is be who you are. Some people, Nate Smith lays on a sofa before he goes and skis.
Yeah.
Brian Detrick does a 2-hour warm-up. Both of them put them in their right headspace.
Sure.
And that's, don't be too stressed. Yes, we should warm up, we should get our body right, but mentally wise, some people need to be amped up, focused, and ready to go. Some people need to have a little less stress and kind of go. And it's finding what works for you, and that's been a challenge for me this year, is because I don't know what works.
I think you found it.
I think somewhat, but
to answer your question, you said, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but this is what I do. That's what's beautiful about skiing, and I think this will be a recurring theme, and we're going to probably go toe-to-toe on some technical stuff. And
would we?
Well, maybe.
Yes, we would.
But my point is, right and wrong is something that we create.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's right for you could be wrong for somebody else, and vice versa. So that's why that's why we're talking about this, because you're one of the best in the world. You've obviously had success, and people need to hear what your process is. And some people are going to be like that. You're very kind of action oriented. You're always moving. You're always doing stuff. Yeah. So the fact that you just kind of allow yourself to be, and then leading up to it, you make sure you always do one ritualistic thing. Yeah. And if you notice, like washing your hands, if you can take yourself there, it's very sensation oriented. And maybe that gets you into this moment now, because that's one of the things I found is that's what it takes for me.
It's giving me the goosebumps. I feel like I'm ready back on the start.
Getting to that point where you can be present. Yeah. And I feel like that's maybe what washing your hands does. But either way, you have one thing that you do that anchors you to this moment, and then you're ready to step off the dock and do your thing. And I think that's very important, whether it's practice, and you wash your hands every time, practice or tournament. You do the same thing. Basically.
And that's the key. One thing that I'm disciplined with. That's what I'm saying. Like literally.
And I will say that to counter what you said though, you got to be yourself. But what we were talking about the other day offline, performing, and this is practice or tournament. If you're only a practice skier, how you ski, like we talked about already, is very important to you. And you're going to be a better person somehow, some way, if you perform better in practice than if you don't perform better. Yeah. If you can reach the marks that you're aiming for, rather than if you miss those marks, fall short. So competing or performing on the water is a performance. And I do think there's a certain element as you move up the scale closer to your potential as a skier, there's a certain element of being able to kind of fake it sometimes, because let's face it, not every set is approached from the same direction. Sometimes you're amped, you're full of energy, you're excited to try a new setting or a new ski, or just you're excited to go ski and not do anything. Just go ski with your buds. Other sets, you're like dragging your own ass out there just to make it happen, because you know that you should want to do it, but you don't really want to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And so being able to, no matter which direction you approach your ski ride from, I think being able to sometimes fake it or get yourself, have rituals that get you up for that performance can pay dividends, because you're not really faking it. You're just finding a pathway that no matter how you start, an hour before you ski or 15 minutes before you ski, emotionally, mentally, whatever, you can still finish the time right when you jump in the water to ski. You can still finish in a state of mind where you're ready to go out and kind of reach your potential or perform close to your potential. That's what we really want to do.
And I think that for a lot of people should be kind of that, like I say, it by the time I'm in the water, no matter what, it's whether it's tournament or it's practice, it's the same thing for me. I still have my keys, and I think everyone's the same. And I know it sounds so obvious, but I don't know how a lot of people out there practice. You know, I'm very much a tournament based skier. A lot of my friends are very tournament based skiers, so. I don't know but for me, every single time I step on that water, I'm trying to be better. And from what I understand, everyone else is also trying to do that. I think there's obviously a majority out there that are just skiing for fun, but most people that I know personally are skiing to try to get more buoys, whether it's practice or whether it's tournament. And for me, that means getting in the water and washing my hands, doing whatever, maybe thinking about the processes that I'm going to do. But at the end of the day, from that first pass, I'm trying to think about the movements. Doesn't usually work on my first pass, but it's like, okay, let's take the handle, let's bring it across our body, let's make sure we, like, there's all those processes work. And for me, I'm trying to just run the best passes I can no matter what, practice, tournament. And what I'll often do, which is maybe interesting on a mindset aspect, is around tournaments, I'll start to try to put myself in a tournament aspect. And it's starting to become more and more common is I'll come into 5 at 39 and go, all right, you can't fall. You know, like, because in a tournament you can't fall. It's not easy, but by no means are you allowed to fall at 5 at 39. Like and it's happened, right? But it's coming in like I would just relax in practice and just kind of and I would put my pressure on it. It's a 20-mile-an-hour tailwind. I mean, that's a little aggressive. 15-mile-an-hour tailwind. It's a windy tailwind. You come into that 5 ball, and it's not. Let's see what happens. This is tournament. What are you going to do? What moves are you going to make? And all of this is thought last minute for me in practice. But I'm trying to get to that stage for tournament skier. Is all right. I'm coming to this 5 at 39. What am I going to feel here? What am I going to move? What am I going to do here? But I'm not allowed to fall. This is, you have to get to 6 and you're allowed to fall. There's a very small margin there. And so adding that pressure on can kind of recreate tournament without having this whole tournament set where you have to go down the line, you have to do this, no matter what happened. But you put occasionally a situation on yourself where you go, all right, you're not allowed to miss this. It's fine if you do. Most of the time, it's fine if you do. You shouldn't have to do this all the time, but just putting those moments on myself where it's, okay, don't fall. What
you're really talking about, which I agree with 100%, is trying to keep some continuity between training and tournaments.
Just
for the tournament skiers in a way.
But not even not even all the time. It's just every pass or every once in a while it will be, all right, you're allowed to fail. You have to be able to fail, and I think that's a really important mindset that people aren't very good with. They fail, they miss. For me, as a pro skier who misses 39 in tournament, not that often, more than I'd like, but not that often, people always look at me and go, you never missed 39. And I'm here like people are like, oh, 41, what are you going to... I'm like, I got to get through 39 first.
Exactly.
You know, but I'll miss it in practice and it will not bother me, you know?
But that's because of your mindset.
That's what I'm saying. So it's finding that, and that's what annoys me is when people in practice will miss a silly pass and they'll get really down and frustrated. And it's like, hey, we're working on things.
That's why it's practice.
I'd be miffed if you didn't fall right now, you know? Exactly. And like with you, I missed a few 39s when we tried a new fin setting. And I was like, I can miss this all day as long as I'm learning something or I'm improving something. I can do this all day, and I think that's where that mindset comes in really important, because you've got to be able to fall. You can't get better if you can't fall. I know that sounds a bit simple and a bit meh, but people will go and beat themselves up for every time that they miss their not hardest pass in practice, but that means that you're never gonna get better.
I agree, and this kind of circles back in a convenient way to the expectations from the beginning of this conversation. You're skiing, quite good. November, the last 2 seasons, end of the year, no tournaments coming up, expectations are lowered. That could be one metric that we assess, and therefore you're skiing better. I think expectations is a big thing for a lot of skiers, and I think being able to allow yourself the freedom to make mistakes, like you say, and not expect to be perfect, allows you to recover better in the moment, and allows you to actually perform better because you're not tense. And I think the last thing I'll say is, for somebody like myself, it's a little different. The pre, like, everything I do leading up to skiing was about consistency. So, you wash your hands. You're consistent with that. For me, I would make sure I was warm. Sometimes it'd be a 15-minute warm up. Sometimes it'd be I would have 15 minutes between the time I skied and when I started my rituals, or I'd have 45 minutes. So that was the gap. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it'd be a longer one. Sometimes it'd only be 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I would always do certain things.
Yeah.
I would always do a little bit of visualization. I would always do just some sort of like present moment awareness.
Yeah.
Whether I close my eyes, open my eyes, I would just maybe view people on the dock.
Yeah.
And I would allow myself to be emotional during that. I would laugh if somebody else is laughing. Like I see somebody making a joke. I see Parrish being Parrish, and I would just quietly laugh with that. I'd try to start becoming more aware of my surroundings. Yeah. And by doing that, by the time I got to the dock, putting my gloves on, putting my ski on, I was ready to be present.
Yeah.
Because I had been slowly funneling myself into the moment.
Yeah.
And I think for me that was a big deal, and I would try to do that in practice.
Yeah.
Almost every time.
And that's interesting how you say that because I feel like you have people who are either very good at a routine and feeling like, okay, I'm going to do this no matter what, and I don't know if I'm one of those people. And I think it's interesting that actually I think me and you do the same thing, but I try not to let myself think that it's a routine. I try not to go, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to be mindful. I'm going to have to take time to do this. I just kind of...
It was never a have to, by the way.
But you know what I mean?
Maybe for you, people are different. Maybe for you, it'd be like, all right, I don't want to have to... Like you said, you don't want to have to inject. That's a shitty thing because that's like your life is on the line.
Yeah.
But if it's a have to, I feel like you have to reassess.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be a have to. For me, it was more like... Let me say this, the last thing I'll say, because I think you can speak to this. You're up and coming. Mm-hmm. You have a chance to, the sky's the limit for you.
Yeah.
But you haven't had maybe as many reps over, the last 3 seasons to find out what those things are that you can say, besides just washing your hands and kind of like being you. Like for me, I had a couple decades and I was able to figure out by the end of my career what those kind of non-negotiables were that would get me to the performance state. Yeah. And I think that's what's important. It's not like there's cut and dry cookie cutter like recipes. It's more like finding what works. And even looking back, journaling is key. We're going to talk about that later, but just to find a couple things that work, because it's not about right and wrong. It's about how do you get yourself ready to perform and be hungry to perform once the rope gets tight and you say hit it. Yeah. I don't say hit it. I say ready. But
I don't know. I say all right.
You say all right.
Do it.
So let's go. I say yeehaw.
Yeah, and I think that's in kind of where I do it. Mine's same idea, but a little more simple. Like you say, it is finding what works for you. But I also struggle with that because one day it works, the next day it doesn't. Was that the process? Was that you? Was that? So I kind of that's where I never
fully know
in a massive head spin. So that's why I try not to. I just kind of do what feels right on the day most of the time. But the one thing that I remember, Moomba messed up slalom in the drain, swimming in the Yarra River, which is rough enough as it is, and even more rough when it's on your third pass. But I was sat there on the trick dock on the jump dock, and I was like, right, you've flown all the way here, you've messed up your main event. And I was like, no, just you've flown all the way here. You're in Australia, you're in Melbourne, you're in the middle of a city. This is an amazing opportunity. Take this and just go enjoy it, right? Have fun. And it was interesting hearing Freddie Winter. He said he was very much the same thing. He was like, this was the best it was the best Moomba I've ever had. It was the most enjoyable one. He came here and I was like, I don't care about the results. I'm coming here to enjoy it. Yeah. And that's something that no matter if you're in Melbourne in the middle of a river and skiing, which is an experience I'm very lucky to have had, but isn't that common of one, whether it's just sitting there on a tournament and wherever you're in Lincoln, if you're England, if you're in Australia, if no matter where you are in this world and no matter how big of a deal it is to you, maybe you're at a tournament, a little backyard tournament at your home site, just go, hey, I'm lucky to be here. I could be in an office, I could be this, and no matter what, the fact that I'm being able to experience this right now is great. And
it's amazing.
And I think that general mindset of just being in the moment, and the reason you're listening to this right now, if you are, is because you love the sport. You enjoy it. You don't hear us yap for 20 minutes if you don't enjoy the sport. So before every single ski set, you sit down and you just kind of just take a breath and go, right, this is pretty fun. Let's go do it,
And it's a pretty amazing thing to be able to have the opportunity to do.
Yeah.
The appreciation. Sure. Yeah. I think for me, it's like the mindset should drive the outcomes.
Yeah.
Instead of the outcomes kind of dragging the mindset along with it. Mm-hmm. Because when you ski bad, than the mindset. If you don't have the strength and the keys to be able to control mindset, or to at least guide it, then you have a bad outcome, 1 or 2 bad sets, and the mindset's in the tank.
Yeah,
and I think that's where you got to flip it on its head and say,
I'm lucky to be here.
I'm lucky to be here. Appreciation first. Figure out a few little things that help you each time. Tweak them as you go, and say, all right, whatever happens.
Yeah, that's good.
Kind of back to your point.
Yeah.
Like don't be afraid to make mistakes.
I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's mindset.
Make sure you're in the right mindset before you go water skiing.
Make sure you appreciate it and
enjoy life.
Always. That's mindset. If you want to hear more about mindset or anything else, leave comments below. Rob, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. And like you say, we are always hungry for a question or two. So we want
So
to answer
hungry.
every single one that you send.
I'm actually
within
hungry.
reason.
Right now, I'm hungry.
You've just eaten a turkey
I need
sandwich.
more.
I love it.
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake. All right. Peace out. See you later.